the Bible talks about separating the chaff from the wheat. It's analysis. This verse describes winnowing, the period's standard process for separating the wheat from the chaff. The wind would then blow away the lighter chaff, allowing the edible grains to fall to the threshing floor. A large flat surface, the unneeded chaff would then be burned. So, in a similar manner, and this is the verse here, his winnowing fork is in his hand, and he will clear his threshing floor, gathering his wheat into the barn and burning up the chaff with unquenchable fire. And that's what I meant about you know, prison, race is racism, and the inmates being separated voluntarily to reduce racism all around the globe. And this will end a lot of violence, and it will stop and prevent a lot of violence in prison, out of prison, and then all these motivational speakers, all these people that are trying to change the world for the better, their efforts and hard work won't be done and performed in vain. Although what I'm talking about are these statistics won't really affect the impact that these people will make in other people's lives and in the world. But what I am saying is that it could be a filtration, like filtering process, like you would on, Google, or yes, like Zillow or something, where you'll filter certain things out, or like a store, website, that type of process. And because, see, the main thing right now is people will complain, and they could say racial things about another race, and therefore that is something that they've been taught. Some people have been taught in there, and that is preventing people from just loving on each other, you know. And the way that this can be brought into effect will be to just ask, inmates, if they're willing to sell up with someone that's not in their own race description of themselves. And if they agree to that, because a computer could do this easily, and then like I was saying with that digital ID, everyone will be accounted for everywhere they go, everything they do. will be recorded and monitored, just like we are out here in society with our cell phones and everything that we do, whether we realize it or not. And because like, okay, let me just put it like this: like, we're all military. We're all military because military runs everything, and therefore anyone under them is also military, and they have to conduct themselves so. And if they don't, then that's when they're made aware of that. And everything is done for a purpose and a reason, and not all this is done to punish, but to learn and to grow and evolve as a human race. And if we can't overcome these elementary problems that we've been facing for so many years, then I'm personally afraid for our future. And I think I could speak for everyone on that regard, because it's not a game. And a lot of innocent people died to provide freedom for the whole world, not just our country in the United States of America, but for the whole world. Because if we're at peace, then everyone's at peace, and if there's no war somewhere, then in a way we're all at peace. And you know thank God for the higher power that's there. And the only way for us to really overcome this is to perform tests, and then allowing these people and making them aware that they are being recorded and monitored, and that with the digital ID, um, everything is being monitored. And this goes with disciplinary actions. So like when they go and the board reviews their case and all that, everything will be documented, and as it is now, but on paper, and some stuff's on the computer. But I'm talking about, like, when you go to a job out here in society, now they give you a number, you type that number up, and basically you clock in, you clock out with that number, you eat with that number, you do a lot of stuff with that number. So in the same way, these inmates have unique IDs or ID numbers, identification numbers, and with those identification numbers, like you see on, if I could find my wallet, on the wallet, on the wallet, on inside my wallet, I have my ID, my personal ID, and my ID, and then on my ID, at the back of it, for as long as people can remember, there is a scan code right there. And now you could swipe it. Basically, that what that is a unique number that brings up my profile with the DMV and who knows what else. So, see, we are all classified, and those that are not classified need to be classified, even from an early age. And the sooner someone is classified, the sooner they could be registered in the database, and this will prevent human trafficking. It will prevent, people from just being born and being abused. Also, um, it will also highlight individuals who are not registered, and that's when the military will be obviously reinforcing this and going after those that are not and basically enforcing them to. And this will be done in every country for the classification of their own people and their own citizens. And therefore, in, overall, we'll have a global database of every individual, everyone in the world. And I guess on every highway, on every border or something, we could have, certain cameras that will, be used specifically, or programs that will be specifically used for filtering out a bunch of different things, but mainly for people, and then putting them in their right categories and skill levels. And I believe this will, help us to point each other in the right direction for the future. And it's very important, and I think whether we like it or not, it is part of what the Bible says about the mark of the beast and all that. But there's nothing to be afraid of, especially if you're not a Christian, because you're not going to be the one that's going to be scared running around like, oh no, they want to implement this chip on me or whatever, and I don't want it because the Bible says this and this and this. Well, too bad for you, honestly. You have to do what you have to do. And if the Bible also says don't be afraid of those in authority if you're not doing anything wrong. So there's really nothing to be afraid of. I think it's just our understanding and education that we don't really understand, and we have yet to perceive and educate ourselves in that. And even the USD currency has a unique QR code or VIN number, that serial number, and every bill has a different scan code, barcode type of thing, number. And obviously, when the money is inserted, it knows exactly where it came from and exactly how it was circulated throughout the world in the computer, which is the probably in the United States Treasury database, um, for the where they house all the money and fraud cases, or you know the opposite of all that stuff. So everyone has a job to do, and this what I'm talking about is basically organizing not only the world, not only the data, but it will organize our future as well. And the only way to do this is by just doing it right now, just doing it, and making it happen, even if it's at a small rate or small scale. And that's why I said that it would probably be easier to test this in the prison, where the popularity, the capacity of people, the population of people is reduced in number. So therefore, monitoring a small town, type of thing will be made simpler for those who are troubleshooting it and testing it out. And stuff like this is already going on, not only in our government and other parts of the world, but I believe that it should be introduced in the um, prisons, jails, and all that, institutions, all kinds of like all the institutions, and obviously, if any alteration and all these on the way that this is introduced, whether a ID card, a bracelet, whatever it might be, then of course, that's when people will get penalized, and you know, it'll basically be self-supportive in that aspect. So this will prevent people from damaging um, government property, and respect it. And I was telling my friend that people that go to the army or Marines, these people are more strictly disciplined, and they have to go through a lot of um, training and education. And people in prison, they're just doing whatever they want. If they want to work out, they can work out. If they want to do this or that, they can. There is no, you have to do it this way or that way. And I'm not really saying that either. But, you have people that are doing good for us all, and they're getting disciplined. while people that are in prison are in there for whatever the crime they committed, and they get to do whatever they want, and they're not under strict rules and regulations like those in the Marines or in the Army. Um, so I I understand that it's like a form of probably like slavery and a different entity, um, and I understand that obviously it's about money to control the world for its evolution and growth for us all. And that's why I'm bringing all this up, because I'm not downplaying what was being done right now. I'm just saying these are different options and different ways, methods that can be introduced to better help in that or aid in that. And if it's done correctly and thoughtfully, then yes, I believe that the crime rate will be reduced. I believe that people will just be more friendly and loving, because you probably have never seen someone that's really racist, and didn't you probably never met anyone that didn't like you because of your skin color. It's pure evil, and they don't want they consider you their enemy just by looking at you and classifying you right away as a target. And that is very, very scary, not only for the public but for those people that are around that individual or individuals. And although some of them are able to cope with other races, some completely aren't able to. And usually those are the type of people that get dealt with in prison, not because someone says so, but I believe because everyone's afraid of them or her, or just those group of people. They're just afraid that their actions are going to affect them, so they just disappear. Something happened. They're no longer around. And that's what ends up happening whether you're in society or in prison. If you continue that lifestyle or those actions, you know, people end up dying, and in a way they're like really not tolerated anywhere they go. So everywhere if you know people like this, you probably know them by their actions, and you know that no matter where they're placed, they're always getting into fights. They're always causing trouble. They're always um, committing new crimes, and they're always like, just the aggressor. And oh, I have to prove myself over and over and over, where the whole world knows about you, and you go to a different building, and everyone knows about you and your actions. So you no longer have to prove yourself like you did once before, like the newcomer in prison that now has to repeat what you formerly did to be where you're at. And it's all done in vain. It's stupidity, arrogance. See, so to prevent people from walking through that path, these people need to be separated from those type of people so they won't be influenced and manipulated. Because it could happen to anyone. And if you're successful and you've never been incarcerated, well, one day we're all gonna die. And where will our children or future generation be at? Maybe the tables will turn around. We never know. So that's the importance that I'm trying to relate to and get to through you for a reason. Not because I'm important, not because I'm, somebody great and awesome, and not because I'm someone that's not that. I'm just a regular person just like everyone else. It's not even about me. Just put it like that. And I believe that anyone could create a video like this and make it even better and more professional, like the fucking news media, right? And introduce it. But see, what I'm talking about, it's gonna take time. And it's really, you know, connecting everything and plugging all these channels together that will unite us as one people. And because in the Bible it does talk about that too, like, unity and stuff like that, without even getting into the Antichrist stuff. That's a whole different issue. That's a whole different story or topic in itself. you know and Christians, honestly, they have this weird way of talking crap when something new is introduced, and then they all adapt to it, and then they figure out a way to justify it so they can implement it in their own lives and then in their homes, their Christian homes. Like the television, for example. The television was something of the devil back in when it was introduced, and only that it was the devil's a way of getting into people's minds and manipulating people and all this other crap. But I think what it really comes down to is the churches are so wealthy that if any new idea is introduced, they want to bring it down to their level. And by that I mean because they're not rich at all. They might have materialistic things up the butt, but mentally and every other way around outside of that, they're not wealthy. And so they try to, I believe, they try to bring it down so their methods can be can succeed and flourish, while these other methods won't, unless they themselves get plugged in. So now, oh, we're using the television now, and now it's not evil because look, we have our own channel. Go check us out. You know. Oh, and at the end of every message, don't forget to buy our book, our new release. We have a new um, meeting concert going on. Don't forget you buy your ticket. It's only $49.99. You know, and it's part of life. And see, we have to just deal with that. And that's all a side issue, and not really an issue. It is just part of life, and it will continue with this movement or not. It will it will continue forever. You know, and I do believe in this country, the United States of America, and I pledged my allegiance to this country a long time ago as a child. And I believe in the freedom of religion, and that's what the United States is about. It's about, it doesn't matter what religion you're involved with, or what a cult you're involved with, like, or what entity you're involved with. Like, we're here, we're united, we're all people. We all have different opinions and um, thought patterns, and we shouldn't discriminate ourselves for that. We shouldn't bring down other people because of the way they think and reason logically, you know. And obviously, that's why some people are filtered out, because they think a different way and they have different actions. They like doing different things for whatever reason. That's just the way they're brought up and skilled at. And that's not necessarily a problem unless that problem can be controlled. But if that problem is controlled and analyzed and then like thought of from an educational level, then it'll be easier to understand the way people think. And the way that you think might be normal to you, but in someone else's mind, you're crazy, and vice versa. So who's right and who's wrong? You see, so it's really, just respecting people for who they are, And obviously that's why there's different organizations and different separations, divisions of various teachings and occults and religions, because not everyone thinks the same, and you have to find your own where you fit in, and not and because you choose one area where you think you fit in, or you fit in, don't expect everyone to respect you and love you for that decision. There's going to be opposition. There's going to be people that hate you for making that choice. But don't worry about it, because whoever hates you, other people have opposition against them. And I guess we all have opposition against ourselves or against everyone. If that's expressed verbally or not, that's a whole different story. But we all know. We all know. And it's just part of life and things that we have to deal with. Um, so, I mean, I guess someone would just have to sit down and think this throughly. I believe, like, as I did for a very long time, you know, I mean, months and months, years. And it makes sense, it makes sense that this will be good because it will protect everyone and it will reduce the crime rate levels. And obviously, the military will still be in control as they always will. And obviously, if it's a top secret mission, then things can be overwritten in the hard drives and all that stuff for the protection of all people, or it could be hidden, um, so as to not reveal specific information for the protection of others or for we the people. So that's why we all have the right to our privacy, and we all understand that unless something happens to you or your family members, then you want them all in there and you want to know everything that happened. You want to know every detail. Then it's okay. And I believe we all understand. Now, these people that are notoriously against this movement of loving every race besides their own, we have to educate ourselves why they think this way and why why they think that they're superior than any other race out in the world. If other races think the same way about their race, then who's really right, and which race is the more supreme or superior? And to answer that is really just someone's pride and someone's way, the way they process the information was differently probably from other people, and therefore they think themselves as more superior. But you could have someone from your own race and you could think this way and they could think this way, the same way, but then one of them could be very smart and the other one very stupid. So now, do you still like that person even though he's from your own race? Or do you hate him or want to stay away from him because he's not really all there mentally? See, so that would just bring you back to the whole world and the unity of people, because now, I mean, say if it was just your race, in the United States of America, we have, handicapped people, we have cancer patients, we have all kinds of different facilities for different medical conditions. So that's what your world and your mind will probably look like, but with your own race. I mean, is that what you want? It doesn't make sense. See, so what it really comes down to is you don't like certain people, and you're gonna just hate and discriminate someone else because of their skin color, and you never even met that person. You never bothered to introduce yourself. You never shared your interests and hobbies. Maybe you guys do the same thing. Maybe you guys can click up and create the most successful business the world has ever seen yet. But you choose to hate each other just because of skin color. I mean, these people that are in prison are suffering. They're suffering. You think they want to be in there? You think if you were in their shoes, you would want things to be done differently only because you were in that situation? Or only now because you're in that situation and you have no control over it? I mean, these people are teaching each other not to share with certain people and not to give to other people because of their skin color. But check this out. You go to Google Maps, and it doesn't matter where you go in this world. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you're at. You could be anywhere in this world. And whether rich or poor, you have to support for your own needs. You have to support for your own home, and you have to be responsible for your own stuff. And you could be in a neighborhood, doesn't matter what class it is, rich, poor, or whatever. You're gonna have different neighbors of different races there. And if your neighbor comes and asks you for something, you know, you're probably gonna be very friendly with that neighbor because that's what neighbors do. And the Bible says to love your neighbors, and that's not just in a certain block, in a certain neighborhood, in a certain state or different or a country. That's everyone as a people, and that's what Jesus really taught. Love your neighbor as yourself, everyone, not just a group of people or whatever. And you do that. You do that just because they know you know where they live and they know where you live. So if that's the case, then this digital ID topic that I'm talking about would definitely help because I mean even now if someone could search for someone's name and they could know so much about them, they could find out where they live, everything. So it's really no hidden or no secrecy in anything. And it's like us coming together like a small town, like a smaller and tighter community of people. And thanks to the internet, because back in the Western days, um, there was none of that. There was no cameras. Like, you could shoot people and and get away with it for a while. But now, you could do that anywhere in the world, and if there's a camera like there, and it captures you, then you're found out right away at any location of the world. Doesn't matter where it's at, and that's the power of the internet and the cameras and all that. So it's just as if this Western town there was cameras or someone watching, someone happened to see what you did or what this other person did to do harm for whatever reason upon another. And now they know exactly who did what, everything, you know? And I think that this is something that'll be good for everyone, and that it should be brought and enforced just based on these ideas themselves and the prevention of crime and all that other stuff. And and I guess the people that are for this idea, you know, like I was honestly watching this space thing on Google, and I guess I could watch it, I could play it, and it said 4,000 people, I believe, or no, 400,000 people made it possible for us to go to the moon. It wasn't just a few people, a selected few people. It was all of us, and like that's why I created or did this with invent or don't invent on Facebook, because I'm talking about ideas, and there's free ideas in here that I share that I came up with, inspired by Shark Tank, and they're ideas to help everyone in the world. And as foolish or not so foolish these ideas might be, it's a stepping stone for someone else to say, you know what, I like this idea, Francisco or so and so, but I thought about a better way to do it. Well, let's hear about it. Let's make it better. And that's what this whole thing with invent or don't invent is all about. It's invent this, not this, and the reasons why behind it. And because we're all trying to grow, and we're growing so fast with this internet and everything, that there is no time to be fighting one another about and wasting resources, with, I came up with this idea, let me build it, and then a few years later someone else builds it way better than them. And that's okay, that's how usually it happens. But what if we all sat down together and we all found filtered each other's minds and got into the career that we really want to live in and grow? Then we'll all each be able to contribute and invest in our own careers and allow those to grow. And that's what it really comes down to. And I believe that's what's really gonna allow us not to only colonize, the United States, and what all the other history that we hear about. Let's try to think about it from the positive side of for all of us as a human race and as a united people globally. Let's look at it from that perspective, and then how we're going to colonize the moon, how we're going to colonize Mars, and branch out from there. Because nothing's impossible. It's just the way that we've been taught. And if you are still down at that level, it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, because we all have a part in this, whether you realize it or not. So I'm going to play this and you guys can watch it.
Sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32.
Hi, I'm Mike Collins, astronaut on Apollo 11. 50 years ago, I went on an adventure which took Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to the surface of the moon for the first time in history, while I stayed in orbit 60 miles above them in the command module, which would eventually bring us all home. After a big breakfast, our rocket lifted off in the morning of July 16, 1969. Neil, Buzz, and I felt the weight of the world on our shoulders. It took around 400,000 people to land humankind on the moon. From engineers to computer programmers to the people who sewed airtight spacesuits. We thought our onboard computer was very sophisticated, but in fact it had less computing power than what we all carry around in our pockets today. NASA worked with 3 antennas around the Earth, one in Spain, one in Australia, and one in California. So our team in Houston could see us anytime and tell what our trajectory should be, no matter which way the Earth was turned. We were in constant sunlight between the Earth and the Moon. In order to regulate the temperatures on Apollo 11, we had to perform a maneuver which some called a barbecue roll, in which we rotated sideways like a chicken on a spit. spectacle. It was huge. The sun was coming around it, cascading and making a golden halo, and filled our entire window. As impressive as the view was of this alien moon seen up close, it was nothing compared to the sight of the tiny Earth. The Earth was the main show. The Earth was it. After a tense descent, in which they almost ran out of fuel, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon on July 20th, 1969.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Step off the land now. That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
Neil and Buzz set up an American flag and a plaque that read, "We're men from the planet Earth, first set foot upon the moon. July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind." Behind the moon I was by myself, all alone, but not lonesome. If you counted, there were 3 billion plus 2 people on one side and me on the other. I felt very comfortable back there. I even had hot coffee. We arrived back on Earth on July 24th, 1969, and landed in the Pacific Ocean. We were invited to take a tour around the world, and I was amazed that everywhere we went, people would say, we did it. We, you and me, the inhabitants of this wonderful Earth, we did it. Houston, Mike Collins on Apollo 11. Thank you so much for joining me today. Mike Collins out.
So, it doesn't even matter that I played this with Google, because before Google there was Yahoo, there was there's Safari, there's so many search engines, browsers to search the World Wide Web, and these names and organizations could change, or they could simply decide to change their business name altogether. And then with our different ways of thinking, we could say, oh, we like this one or not, for these reasons or not. And it's the same thing with Google phones and Android phones and Apple phones. And Apple itself, probably, when I change its name with because of its sentimental value with Steve Jobs and his team, and the efforts that they did to introduce the home computer and the smartphones to the people. So that name will probably never be changed, and it will take a very, very long time for it to really disappear like Sony did. And now it's Dre Beats. So, but it's not really about like attacking one another. It's about growing with one another. And yes, we have different opinions about different things. Whatever, who doesn't? Right? I guess what it really comes down to is, how badly do you want to change? and why, the reasons why, the motives. Like, do you want to change just to be out of a certain situation? Then when you get out of that, then what? You know, is your motive still there where you want to help yourself and then eventually other people? And if that's the case, then you're in the right track. And all it really takes is you wanting to change your life for the better. And if you're stuck in a certain situation that you're sick and tired of, like they say, in order for you to change your ways, you have to change the people that you hang out with. And because the people you hang out with can, I guess it could be good because they can make you realize that you need new friends. It can make you realize certain things, before you actually make the change. But then when you make the change, you can say, that's when people say, well, yeah, you have to change your friends, because once you change them, then obviously you're able to live from a different perspective and be successful. And that's why people say that, because they said it from in a successful level, and they said that because they themselves once were in that situation, and they realized, if I really want to change, I have to think differently. I have to, get myself out of this mind frame and educate myself to want more out of life. And it doesn't really cost us anything to come up with ideas, except a little time invested in brainstorming and thinking. And that could be very, very stressful in itself and very exhaustive, but someone has to do it, and that's why, I'm saying, like, with this internet stuff, it could be you finding people that think the same way and connect with those people. And when you make that connection, then you're able to, like, basically go like what you would do on the website with the forum. You would basically go on there and discuss, whatever it is that you're doing, and then how you can perfect that trade or or not, or whatever. I guess that's what that's what some people need to hear in order for them to really realize what they're missing out on. And some of them might never even thought of the world or other people the way that I was made aware of it. But now you are, thanks to this video and thanks to the internet, thanks to a bunch of other things. But I guess ultimately is your choice, and it's your choice. It's never too late. It's never too late to impact the world. Like, I mean, you want to talk about successful people and people that came out of the hood and all that stuff. Like, look at Dr. Dre and them. Look at Eminem. Look at all these other people. They educated themselves, and now they're very successful, and they have been for a very, very long time. Dr. Dre's a billionaire now. So it's never too late. Like, so the guy that started McDonald's was 50 years old. So it's never too late. It's never too late where you're at, what you've been through, what you've done. It's never too late, and I think that that's why a lot of people like going to church, because they say this stuff over and over and over, and they reassure you of that. And that reassurance is always constantly there, I believe, with any church or any groups of people. And what these places are doing is really encouraging one another to do their best and perform their best, you know. So I don't know what level you're on. I know, this is the way that I think, and that the way that I process a lot of information. But me myself, I'm not rich, I'm not wealthy, I'm not um I don't have, you know a lot of things in this life, but I'm grateful for the little that I have, and I'm not, really complaining about that here in this video, you know. But like, I guess it's like, what are why are we even here? It's not about money, because the rich and poor, like they say, they have the same fate. They're both gonna die. And I just heard this not that long ago. We're all gonna die. So why are we really here on Earth for? You know, and why did young soldiers, ages like 15 through 23, give up their lives willingly for our country? Obviously they had a a call to that, and so did other people from different countries, and everyone was just trying to protect their own country and their own people. But why did they have to die? And for us to think we're better than other people only because we have a little bit more money or not. you know it doesn't make sense. And then, like, most of these songs that are out, they're always just talking about how wealthy they are and how they've made it in life. And that's okay, because obviously they did make it and they did amount to something, and they probably don't have to work in their whole lives if they don't want. While other people are breaking their backs working, for $12 an hour, $10 an hour, to only make, $20,000 a year. I mean, $20,000, times, 50, you're looking at like 10 million. Like, you could probably just retire with that if you have that amount, or whatever it is. Maybe I did the math wrong, but, you know, I guess, you can just do whatever you want, but I think that there's a lot of people that have specific traits and skills that I believe that they can be filtered out thanks to the internet. And um, because they have to write stuff, they have to search stuff, they have to do certain things, and the internet is fully aware of all this stuff. And if the internet is not fully aware, then people are. And see, it's really, um,
successful people in every career that can really pinpoint their own shadows. And then once they help those people out, those people can pinpoint their own shadows and help other people out. And it'll be a domino effect from here on out. And it all starts with basic things, Like I remember someone said, like the story of Moses or like David. Like David didn't just beat Goliath. He had to tend his father's sheep while his brothers and probably sisters were at home doing whatever the heck they do while he was out there in the field. Because when the prophet came to anoint one of them as a prophet or a king or whatever, the prophet said, these all the sons that you have? And he said, no, there's one more out in the field. And then he anointed David. And yeah, David did become king. But before that, remember what happened? He killed with his bare hands like a lion and other wild animals that were trying to attack the sheep. And other people would be like, well, why would someone go to that extent? And no one really knows why, but God behind the scenes was training them and teaching them and basically made them very, very fearless to the point where he's able to fight off a lion. I mean, I think it was a lion. No, I think that was Samson, but a bear from what I remember. So he was courageous. He was very, very, brave person, thanks to God's upbringing in his own personal life, to the point where, the army had a problem with this other individual, an army, and they were boastful and they wanted to basically bully this other tribe or community or state or whatever it was, kingdom, because they had a more powerful opponent in their eyes. And of course, this army was afraid. But here comes David after his father told him to just go bring some food to his brothers because they're at war. So their brother was just over there taking care of the sheep. He had no idea this stuff was going on. And if he would have known, he would have probably dealt with Goliath a long time ago. And who knows where the course of life would have took us. But everything is in God's timing. And as it should be, And when he arrived at the right time, at the right moment, because he was able to overhear them speaking about destroying Goliath or fighting Goliath. And I guess I could do a quick search. David hears about Goliath. Goliath's challenge. So it was Goliath's challenge to the Israelites. And that's in 1 Samuel 17:21 through 23. Israel and the Philistines moved into position for battle line, facing battle line. So they're head to head, face to face, eye to eye, weapon to weapon, ready to just annihilate themselves. David left the supplies he had with him in the care of the supply keeper and ran to the battle line. And these supplies he had with him were obviously the supplies that his dad told him to take to his brothers. When he arrived there, he asked his brothers about their well-being, probably because his dad asked him. As he was speaking with them, as he was speaking with them, just when he was speaking with them, just when he arrived and ran to them, because it says here, and ran to the battle line. And as he was speaking with them, the Philistine champion named Goliath from Gath came up from the Philistine battle lines and spoke his usual words as David listened. See, so imagine if David would have never arrived there at that time. They probably would have never told David, and David would have been faced with a whole army by himself. So what does God do instead? What God does instead is he presents Goliath as one person, and just because he took out that one person, it took out the whole army. See, so I'm not really getting the whole story here, but you guys understand what I'm talking about. And these are tactics and war strategies of our history in world's history for not our own people necessarily, our own countries or whatever, but for the overall justice of mankind and for mankind's ability to grow and evolve. That's the real battle, people. Not race or country or organizations. You know, it's not really about that. It's really the betterment for all people. That's the main goal, the main mission. That's the real call. That's the way. That's the way Jesus. That's the way, or the reason why Jesus came and walked and taught to love all people and all that stuff, right? So when that happened, David was able to beat Goliath. So going back to what I was talking about, see, it all starts with the fundamental things, the small little things, for God to really work up to the big things. Now we probably don't need a rocket and all that to go to the moon. We probably have the technology to just go on in a jet and go there directly and come back directly. Without all the mechanisms that were used in the video that I showed earlier from Google. And this is just my idea, my theory, because we're so advanced and we have the face masks and the jets, which allow us to travel outside of the ozone layer or whatever inside of the world to space where there is supposedly no oxygen. I don't know. I've never been there. So, but it didn't start that way. It started with the little things, And I guess if you really want to make an impact in people's lives and in your own life, you have to start with the little things. And then go from there and just trust that whatever you do, with whatever supplies and resources that you have, that God's going to provide, and that you're going to be um, you're making an impact on the world. That maybe God put you here specifically because no one else would have been able to do that like yourself. And I obviously have a bug because this over here is doing some weird searches on the web. But but there's smart people out there, and they know exactly what's going on. They know exactly what, how to deal with specific things and people and problems. And I guess for every problem there is a solution. There is a solution. So, nothing is impossible, people. Nothing is impossible. You just have to have faith and believe. Have faith and believe. That's it. And the Bible says faith without works is dead. So you have to have corresponding action, like my friend said. You believe that the door's going to open. It's not just going to open by itself. You have to grab a key and open it. You have to do something. So you're not going to get out of your situation by just believing you are. You have to do something about it. You have to study. You have to work out. You have to do something that other people are not willing to do, and make an effort. And I guess we all have our own parts to do, our own jobs to do. And it all starts with, ourselves. Not with, so and so or so and so. It starts with ourselves. And like how some people have said in the past, they said that our greatest enemy is ourselves. So I guess we just have to defeat ourselves. We have to beat the Goliath within ourselves first. And maybe that's just the way that we think and reason, because someone else's opinions don't make sense, or we just don't want to make sense of it because we don't like the person or whatever it might be. I don't know. We're allowing our own feelings and emotions get in the way for whatever reason. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I guess we all have to find that within ourselves. But that's why I like the Bible personally. Not because there's this spiritual God out there and that he loves us and all this other crazy stuff. Like, yeah, I believe all that too. But, the Bible was written by kings and kingdoms of our history. And they claim to know this superior person or God that helped them, because some of their armies were supernaturally helped. Like fire came down from heaven, things happened, the world shook. There's one kingdom where they're going to battle and the sun was about to go down, but that person prayed and the sun stood still for for a certain amount of time. And these are not, these are like crazy supernatural, really supernatural stories. Like, the stuff that we would question ourselves right now, today. Like, would this even be possible? But they believed it so strongly within themselves. See, and that's all it really is. Like, you want to help other people. I believe that power's with you. You want to bring about good for all. then that power is going to be with you wherever you go, and all your enemies will be crushed. Not because of you, not because of of the who you are or whatever, but it's because you're looking out for the interests of other people before your own. And there's a key to that. It's like a law. It's like the law of gravity. And if you're really in tune with that, then no matter what you do or don't do, that power is always going to be with you, because your whole mission is to help other people and to bring real justice to the world. And remember, that was all part of the curse from the beginning with Adam and Eve. So God wants to bring restoration. He wants to restore us to the former way of living, and that was back at the Garden of Eden. And that's the superior, the supernatural that we lost connection with a long time ago, but not really. There's a lot of people that still believe along these lines, and that will continue to. And some people were just never really made aware of it, and especially from this perspective. But that's what it really comes down to, and that's what it really comes down to when you become a Christian or a follower of God. Like, you put your own interests above. I mean, you put your interests of others above your own. So not the other way around. So once you do that, then you're a real follower of God, whether you're a fucking sinner or not. Honestly, it doesn't matter about that. God does not care about that. God does not care about that at all. Like, that's why he sent his fucking son to die for us. It's over and done with. It's not even up for debation or for debate. I don't even know if debation is even a word, but it's not even up for debate. It's done and for all. It's done. It's done. It was done. It is done. Jesus said it's finished. So it's not even a problem. What it really comes down to is how are we going to impact other people? How are we going to be better at doing that than we probably did before or tried before? Because it doesn't matter. We can all change, and there's people that have, um, like, from deep within their heart, really repented and want to do good. And maybe that's because they really fucked up. And maybe they're in prison right now facing the death penalty. And they know they're not ever going to get out. Ever. And they know they're going to fucking die in there. And they don't know what to expect. Like, this fucking 3-needle injection shit. One fucking numbs your whole body. They could fucking open you alive and dissect you if they fucking want, while you're still fucking alive. What's the second needle? What does it do? What's the fucking third one? Who's there to analyze this shit? If anyone. It's probably military shit. So it's probably highly classified. I mean, fuck. But maybe after a while, maybe they realize and they made a decisive choice to change for the better. What they did, what they do from that point on really affects us all, and um, depending on what they did, not on the crime, but on their decision after they repented and to help us all. Maybe it was a preventative. Maybe it was a preventative for someone else not to repeat the same offense, or something like that. And if that's the case, then they probably helped a lot of other people that would otherwise follow them in their footsteps and want to be like them and like what people are considered copycats, or like what Jesus would describe as a disciple or follower, and want to follow in those footsteps, whether it could be negative or positive, and but every action has a domino effect and will affect some people, you know or if not all of us in one way or another. So see, it's never too late. It's never too late, and it's all about education. So I know um, that some people that are already up there and they're already doing stuff like this, they probably do care about this video, but they probably don't, because they're too focused on their own stuff. But I think like this type of thinking was the kind of concept and um, path that I wanted to take about with me writing my own book, and not necessarily the bullcrap negativity stuff that other people write about. Because other people could write about their past and all that, and that's fine, because it teaches people, you know, certain things, and it opens up their eyes, and then they obviously show how they could change. But see, I wanted to speak for the general population, for everyone, and for everyone in the world, and that's there's a lot of people that have been to prison for different reasons, and that every prisoner's testimony is pretty much typical, like to each other's testimonies. You know, that wasn't really my case for wanting to write my own book. It's really like, yeah, I've been to prison, but this is what I did to change. This is what you could do to change. This is things that you could do to try to get out from your situation and do better in life. And then so on and so on and so forth. And then, bring it to this conclusion, like, that it's never too late to change, whether you're a Christian or not. We could all make an impact in the lives around us. And it all starts with each other, with ourselves. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Have a blessed day, everyone.